Greetings, everyone. I'm Reverend Deborah Johnson, also known as Rev D, and welcome. Welcome to Inner Light. Welcome to our Sunday virtual gathering where we come together from near and far to be in community, to be in fellowship. We come together to experience the presence of the divine as our very lives. So, regardless of wherever it is that you are, regardless of what time it is that you're tuning in to this, whether this is your very first time with us or whether you've been with us for decades, you are welcome here. Let's just breathe that in for a moment. Get settled in, let the monkey mind quiet down, allow ourselves to be fully present. We're an omni faith ministry, which means we are about faith itself, not just about particular religious traditions. We're not about doctrine or dogma or creed. Maybe you don't believe in religion. Maybe you don't believe in such a thing as a deity. That's fine. Everybody believes in something. Everybody believes in something. So you conceptualize the message here in whatever it, in whatever way it works for you, because we're talking about universal spiritual principles that are transcendent of culture, of history, of context. Nobody has a monopoly on the truth. So we appreciate the universal oneness. We understand that sacred interconnectedness, a sacred interdependence of all living things. We aspire to embody that, to be that. We honor and acknowledge the way that this wonderful creative energy, that's the oneness of everything, that when it comes forth, it manifests itself as variety. So we appreciate all of that diversity. It's not that it's different life, it's the same life. Sometimes a life shows up as a mountain, sometimes it's an ocean, sometimes it's a weed, sometimes it's a chihuahua, sometimes it's you. But it's all coming from the same place. There are a lot of different paths that people are on, and we honor all the paths that are leading to this place of the sacred interconnectedness, all the paths that are going towards social justice, all the paths that are going towards environmental sustainability, going towards the regeneration, because we are here about healing and growth and transformation. We provide tools that encourage you to apply these universal principles that we talk about in your everyday life, not just to read about it, not just to talk about it, but to actually put it into practice. So, one of the tools that we offer every week are affirmative activations. It's 100 words literally to change your life. These are paradigms and practices, they're principles, they're perceptions, they're all of that and so much more. And if you come back to this and you repeat it, we're just going to give you a little taste so you can know that they're there. But when you come back and you really let it sink in and find a resting place in your heart, I promise you that the more you let it sink in, the more that you repeat it, the more it takes root within you. And the deeper the roots, the greater the fruits, the greater the benefits that you have from it. Today, we're going to be talking about possibility through appreciation. Possibility through appreciation. So, our affirmative activations are going to be revolving around that as a topic. If you are at all able to actually say these out loud with me now, I want to encourage you to do so as they appear on your screen. We stand upon the dawning of a brand new day. Possibility is ever abounding. awaiting our embrace. We seize this moment. We seed this moment. Never fooled by appearances, we claim the goodness at hand. I take the time to express appreciation. I show my love and gratitude in tangible ways. There's no guessing about what I value and what I want to multiply. My life is so integrated that my resources flow towards my vision. Lack finds no resting place in my heart. Limitation cannot touch my lips. I support the world I want to live in. Let that sink in for a moment. And I ask you to zero in to see if there's some concept here that's calling you. Maybe it's I take the time to express appreciation. Maybe it's I support the world I want to live in. Maybe it's lack finds no resting place in my heart. Or never fooled by the appearances, we claim the goodness at hand. And I promise you, even if you just zero in on one single concept, just, just see if there's one calling to you right now. If you focus on that, be great if you take in the whole, but even if you just focus in on one, I guarantee you it will recalibrate you and you'll resonate at a different frequency. So let's just breathe that in. Hmm. All right. So for technical reasons, we weren't able to bring in our community guest for our little chat beforehand when we explore the topic, but we'll be sure to invite her back. So we're just going to get right on into it. We're talking about the possibilities that come out of appreciation. Appreciation. You know, appreciation is one of those things that's more important than anything I can ever even say, honestly. Gratitude is the thing that impacts our attitude the most. Appreciation is when we take that gratitude the next step and we actually find ways to express it. So think of appreciation as gratitude in motion. Gratitude in motion, where we're actually doing something with it. There are all kinds of ways that we can show our appreciation. There's a phrase that we use sometimes in church communities of your talent, your time, and your treasures, your skills, your capabilities, your your talents, the things that you can do physically, being there, and your treasures of all sorts that we circulate and that we share. There's a phrase that one of my colleagues, Lynn Twists, uses that I really think hits it on the head, where she says, "What you appreciate appreciates." Let's sink in for a moment. What you appreciate appreciates. We get into like a lack and a limitation consciousness. a sense of insufficiency or not enoughness. You hear me say over and over and over again that the only thing that ever needs to be healed is just the sense of separation. Okay. When we start getting into a lack of gratitude and a lack of appreciation, it isn't just that the things that we want are missing. When we get into that state, it isn't simply that we literally don't have, it's that we're not valuing what we do have. We're not valuing what we do have. I can think of myself as a child and those times when there could have been things all around me and I'm complaining about I'm bored or I don't have this, I don't have that. I could be standing in front of a closet. Obviously, clothes are hanging in there. I don't have anything to wear. And I can remember my parents working with me and saying, "What are you talking about? Like, look around. You have this thing and you have that thing and you have whatever." And it's your lack of seeing what's around you that's putting you in this funk, not that you really don't have. I would do this sometimes, even just going to the refrigerator. I eat leftovers. I'm not like really, really big on leftovers, but I can honestly say that some of the most creative dishes I've ever come up with were from leftovers. You can go to that refrigerator and say, eh, there's nothing in here. See it with different eyes. Go, there's a little bit of this, a little leftover rice. Hmm, there are a couple of veggies here, and there's what can I do with this? See, when we get into the appreciation, then we start to see possibilities. I can't tell you how important that is, not only in your own life, but where we are now in a society. There's so much doom and gloom, a lot of divisiveness that's going on right now, and rancor. It's it can be toxic sometimes. We're busy worrying about what the other people are doing or who's going to win the election or what's happening over there in the war or it's like all of this stuff. And unfortunately, we have social media algorithms that really feed like off of the negativity. And then we stop seeing possibility. We can't just fear. Don't just fear upcoming elections. See possibility in them. Don't just fear this thing or that thing. We see the possibility when there's an appreciation. Like, yes, there's a lot of things that are under attack right now. There are a lot of things that are on the line. But do you just fear people that you think are trying to take down democracy? Or are you actually vibrationally, energetically in your speech, in the things that you um write about, your emails, your social media? Like, are you radiating appreciation for this nation? Do people know that you appreciate the democracy, not just that you're afraid that we might be losing it? Can people tell what you appreciate? Does your money flow towards the things that you value? Can people tell by how you spend your time? what it is that you consider to be important. See, possibilities come from appreciation. There's a story I'm going to share with you. I didn't think I was going to go in this direction, but it just right before we started, something said, Go here." So we're going to go here. And I'm going to share with you a Bible story. It's actually popular amongst Christian traditions. It's sometimes referred to as the feeding of the 5,000. You might have heard the term before about loaves and fishes. So I want to break this story down to you a little bit, but we're going to do it from a different angle. We're going to do it from what's referred to as a metaphysical interpretation. Now, what makes it a metaphysical interpretation are several things, not only that it looks at the language and the cultural context, but the main thing that makes it a metaphysical interpretation is that everything is viewed from the lens of consciousness, so that absolutely everything stands for a state of consciousness. Every character, the terrain, the weather, every object. And what's more is that it's all taking place within you. So you're all of it. You're all of it. It's like if this was a story about birthing, you'd be all of it. You'd be the baby, you'd be the mother, you'd be the midwife, you'd even be the process of giving birth itself. It's all you. It is all us. So this story of the feeding of the 5,000, it shows up 4 times. It shows up in the section of the Bible that we call the Gospels, which is the first four books of the New Testament: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And even though it's the same story, think of it a little bit like you can have a Reader's Digest version of the story, or you can have the New York Times, People Magazine. It's the same story, yes, but to different audiences, different levels of detail, different angles that you might be able to see. The more often something shows up in scripture, it's usually an indication of its level of importance. And this one shows up in all of the Gospels. The Gospels are the books that cover like the life of Jesus. So in this story, it says that Jesus and his disciples are out in this place, and these crowds have been listening and they've been talking to him, and it's coming on the evening time, and his disciples are concerned that Jesus needs to stop talking, let these people go home so they can eat, because there's in a place where there's no provisions around. They wouldn't be able to do it. And we're talking about a large crowd here. This particular kind of event shows up twice. Similar situations. One's called the feeding of the 5,000, the other is the 4,000. So we don't really know how many people are here. We're dealing with the 5,000 one, because the 5,000 is just a head count based upon the men. Okay, we don't know how many women and children, might have been present or around for this, outdoor discussion, let's say, that he's having, where he's sharing, universal spiritual principles and whatnot with them. So in this story, it says that his disciples, now here's an important thing in the story here from a metaphysical standpoint, that the disciples represent different faculties of the mind. They represent kind of like archetypes of our spiritual powers. So like John is love, Simon Peter is faith, Peter's brother Andrew is strength. Faith and strength are brothers. They go together. There's a disciple, Philip, that shows up in the story, and Philip represents power. And just like we have in our body, we have different chakra fields. Well, each of these disciples has a chakra field as well. So power is found in the root of the tongue. Let that sink in for a moment. In the root of the tongue. So what happens here is that when the disciples, all the different faculties and powers within them are saying, and Jesus, remember everything stands for consciousness. So think of Jesus as that higher aspect of your own self that knows, that knows its connection to the divine. The multitude typically stands for kind of like monkey mind, like the hungry thoughts within us. Okay, so there's this stuff that's going on, and it's going on and inside of us, and we need to find a way to like calm it down, and and defeat it. So Jesus is like, okay, um you're gonna feed them. And they're like, what what are you talking about? And it says in the scriptures that he already knew what he was going to do. That's what it says, that Jesus, and that he was doing this thing to prove them. To prove means to not to test you for failure, but like to test drive you. So you can see what it is that you're made of. So Jesus says, go out and find what it is that we have. Kind of like that, go to the refrigerator, go to what are you working with? What do you have before you start with all of there's nothing here. What do you have? So the book of Mark is the one that has the most detail. It's chapter 6, verses 30 through 44. And in the book of Mark, it says that Andrew, the disciple Andrew, comes to Jesus and says, there's a lad here. Okay. And this lad has 5 loaves and 2 fishes. So in typical kind of Middle Eastern metaphor, male represents more of the intellect or the external, whereas female represents more of the emotions or the inner world as opposed to the external. So a young lad would be kind of our rational thinking that isn't stuck yet. Okay, that's still open. It's still receptive. Andrew is strength. So the strength amongst the bunch, with the strength within us, goes and finds something. Says the young lad, the one that's not already tarnished, we don't have enough and all of that. Says it's got these 5 loaves and 2 fishes. Loaves represent the substance that we have, the sustenance, so to speak, for our material needs from day to day. And fishes tend to represent ideas or even divine ideas. There's just a multitude of those. You think of the fish like in the ocean, in the sea, where it's more than you can possibly count. Okay, but you got to go subsurface to get it, to find it. It's not just laying out around. This is this is all I can find. Okay, and Philip, who represents power, the seat of the tongue, says it's not enough. What is this going to do? Okay, so think about this now. Appreciation, metaphor, possibility. There's something that's showing up. The strength within us is finding it, but then the power within us is negating it with our mouth, with our tongue. We're declaring it not enough. And because we have declared it not enough, no appreciation, we fail to see any possibilities. And then it says, and it's a nuance that's missed in the other chapters. But in the book of Mark, it says specifically that Jesus tells the disciples to organize them, organize them. Take this hungry crowd, and it says they sat them down in these groups of hundreds, groups of 50, and only the ones that were seated got fed. That's how it is. It's like in order to feed all our hungry thoughts and those aspects of ourselves that are rolling around, running around all over the place, we got to settle it down. Settle it down. Grab hold of it. Grab hold of yourself. Bring it in. Bring it in. Says, and what he did, the only thing that Jesus did was say, find the stuff, and he blessed it. Now, in the story, it never tells you, besides the fact that this lad had this stuff, it doesn't tell you like where all of this came from. Because in the story, as it has it, it says that Jesus blessed it. He took what was there, the 5 loaves, the 5 fishes, he blessed it. Then he distributed that to the disciples. And that's the part that most of the other books in the Bible miss. It says he gave it to the disciples for the disciples to feed the people. Popular version has it that like almost like out of a hat, like Jesus just went there and broke this, and like the rabbit in the hat, and it's like fish and loaves just kept coming, and he just kept distributed to the people. It says they divided them up. They divided them up. And I guarantee you, this is how it is in our lives. The disciples represent all of our faculties: the love, the peace, the wisdom, the faith, all of this, the power. Okay. In order for us to get into possibility, we have to activate those things within us. We have to activate them. They have to be willing to work with whatever is here, to appreciate that and bless it in order to see possibilities and to have that grow. So as the story says, is that he gave the stuff to the disciples. Then the disciples fed the hungry crowd. It says each was filled according to their own need. So it wasn't just a little ration, this, this much, everybody like get this much, but that all needs were met. All needs were met. And then Jesus says at the end, gather up what's left. Okay. Value everything, even the scraps. Okay. Don't waste anything. They gather it up. Says they had 12 baskets full at the end. So they had more at the end of fragments and pieces than they even had at the beginning. So here's the thing. Bible never says where this stuff came from. It doesn't. Upon doing studies of the customs and the traditions, it was the custom of the day for the men to carry the loaves and the fishes with them. They carried them underneath their robes and their clothes because it wasn't like they had restaurants all along the side of the road. Weren't like fast food chains, even if they ate fast food. So the wives cooked them the things that they, needed for the journey. And the custom was not to share on the way. because you never knew how much you were going to need. But on the journey home, that's when people would share because you didn't want to come back with like stale bread and that kind of thing. So think about this. They had what they needed with them all along. They had it. There's a phrase in Jesus's day that basically says it's a miracle when you can get people who do have stuff to share it. It's no less of a miracle if Jesus didn't literally just like take these 5 loaves and like the rabbit out of the hat and just, whoo, there's another one. Whoo, there's another one. There's another. It's just as much of a miracle. Think about our world right now. What a miracle it would be if everybody just took what they had, blessed it, appreciated it, had ourselves organized in our little pods, be whatever that may, communities, nations, neighborhoods, families, where take out whatever you got. Let's stop with the narrative that there's not enough or we don't have it. Just everybody, whatever it is that you have, just pull it out. Pull it out. Let's bless it. Let's show some appreciation for it. And lo and behold, there's more possibilities that way. You can't see the possibilities when you're just looking out on the landscape and you declare that there's nothing there just because you can't see it. But our good is all around us. I like the way the Deepak Chopra says it. Where's the good going to come from? It's going to come from wherever it is now. Let that sink in for a moment. When you're worried about where's the money going to come from, or where's the help going to come from, where's this going to come from, it's going to come from wherever it is now. Everything is circulating. Everything is moving. Everything is rotating. Absolutely nothing is standing still. Nothing. And you want to make yourself a part of that divine circulation. You want to be a place, a portal that things are coming in as and through you. An open vessel, an open vehicle that you are participating in that. The only way you're going to participate in it is if you show up with some appreciation. See, it's different looking upon the horizon, seeing all you think that is missing, then getting into all your action items and your vision boards and all of that to try to wood you up all of the stuff you think you don't have. I'm not saying don't have vision, but what I am saying is that your sense of possibility is not going to come just by getting more stuff from the external or the outside. Your sense of possibility is going to come when you start appreciating what is at hand. And I want to be very explicit, not just appreciating what you like, but appreciating all of it. Ooh, take a breath. Take a breath. Appreciating all of it. those life lessons that seem so harsh, those circumstances and those conditions that have you at your wits' end. Have some appreciation for who you are becoming in it, who you are becoming in it. If you take people who've gone through some stuff, let's just say they've gone through cancer, they've had a spouse of 40 years die. So many different circumstances and conditions that we could go through. None of them like the circumstance or the condition, but they'll tell you how they're not the same person anymore. And had it not been for that circumstance or condition, they wouldn't have grown. They wouldn't have the faith that they have. They wouldn't be as compassionate or kind or vulnerable. They may have never known the amount of support that was actually available to them. There's there's all these different things that are things to celebrate and to appreciate, even in the midst of circumstances and conditions that you don't like. But because we don't like the circumstance or the condition, we fail to see. We fail to see what there is to appreciate. There are loaves and fishes within you, within all of us. We have them. Appreciate. It may not be fancy, you know, it may not have all the bells and whistles and the glitter and all of the rest of that, but it's there. It's there. You have access to it. You have memory of it. There's a commercial. I haven't seen it in a while. I think it's American Express, where they show a guy who is doing this just exquisite hand carving, very, very intricate design. Um, he's a carpenter and he's making a furniture. I think this was like a headboard or something like that. And the intricacies of the designs that he had is so exquisite, and you can see him, with the little knife chisel thing and curving around around the wood. And you hear him talking, and then when they zoom out, you can see that he's blind. And the tagline of this at the end is he says, "I may have lost my sight, but I didn't lose my vision." I may have lost my sight, but I didn't lose my vision. See, that vision is inside. This is the same thing that I'm talking about. That sense of the abundance, the sense of the possibilities that's inside. That's inside. And it stays in there. And what activates it is your appreciation, your acknowledgement of it, and giving it some value. So I want to invite you on that journey. I want to invite you to see more possibilities everywhere in your life, the life of your loved ones, in your communities, your careers, the nation, the world. Let's activate it. Let's activate the possibilities by going into more appreciation. And I invite you to literally, before the end of the day, to pick one or two things where you need to pump it up a little bit on the appreciation because you're not seeing possibility. Do it. Do it. And see what happens. Let's turn within. Let's take it to prayer. Mm, 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 mm. We dwell in possibility. We dwell in that deep place of awareness that God is all that there is. And I say thank you. Thank you. In this moment right now, we dare. We dare. We dare to see. We dare to believe. We dare to elevate our consciousness. We dare to rise above the rancor, the divisiveness. We dare. We dare to have compassion. We dare to trust justice. We dare in this moment to be kind, to look around the landscape, to see and to know, to feel in this moment right now. There's something within us. There's something within us. And it is so great. It is so grand. It is so glorious. We know it to be the truth. We know it. We are not fooled. We don't allow anything or anybody to eclipse the awareness of the abundance. We see it. We call it forth as the enoughness. The enoughness. That there's enough everything. There's enough food and clothing and shelter and peace. There's enough health. There's enough wholeness. There's enough compassion. There's enough freedom, integrity. There is enough goodness. There's enough. There's enough strength. There's enough courage, ingenuity, clarity, understanding, vision, fortitude, purpose. There is enough. And no matter how small we think that it is, we are not fooled. We're not fooled. We know, and we know that we know that we know that we know. With the appreciation, there's pep in our step. There's pep in our step. Where it looks like things are falling apart, we know they're falling together. When it looks like things are all against us, we know that all things are coming together for our good. When it looks like we're sinking and the rug's just being pulled from underneath us, oh Lord, lift us up on higher ground. This is the place where we live. This is the place where we stand. We know it to be the truth. So we release the word, letting it find a resting place in our hearts. It is good. It is done. We get out of the way. We allow it to be, and so it is. Amen and amen. We breathe it in. And in this prayerful state, I want to invite you to reach out to us for prayer. You'll see scrolling across your screen, there are ways. There are ways to reach us. You can give us a call at 831-465-9090 at extension 254. You can send us an email. The number 4 and the word prayer at innerlightministries.com. There are prayer practitioners that have trained for years to speak that word for you. You may be too tired, but we got you. We got you back in prayer. All confidential. No, nothing canned. Please, please avail yourselves of it. We breathe that in. Yes, and in terms of reaching out, check us out online. Check out our calendar. See the various things that we have that are going on. Some are in person, some are virtual, some are a little bit of both. If you happen to be looking at this in real time, May the 5th, 2024, want to invite you to, if you're in the Santa Cruz area, to come on down to the Resource Center for Nonviolence. It's where we have our monthly Inner Light community gathering in person. Our band will be there. Heather Houston and the Yale Latte Choir will be joining us. Lots of fun, music and dancing and fellowship and refreshments, love offering. And we do stream it now. So you can watch us streaming on YouTube. So come on and join us. And, if you can't catch it in real time, be sure to come back and look at it a little bit later. Wonderful things that are going on. Be sure to check it out. I invite you now to participate in these things that I've been talking about. The divine circulation, where we take what it is that we have and we bless it. We allow it to be enough. Allow it to be enough. So I invite you to support what supports you. If this message of empowerment impacts you, means something to you, you'd like to see it get out, you want to support the various ministries that we have and things that are going on, I invite you to make that contribution. Make that contribution. You see on your screens that there are numerous ways to do that. There's a QR code that will take you to a payment portal. You can use a debit card, credit card. You can use PayPal. I encourage you to also use the reoccurring option that allows for whatever donation that you have coming through to come through same day of the month in that same amount. There are many people who do a specific amount, or they tithe their whole entire, I tithe off of everything. I was taught that by my parents, and I credit that for the abundance that's always flowing in my life, because I'm constantly giving. If you're on the website, there's donate buttons that are there. Perhaps you want to use something like Cash App. However it is that it's your choice of how you want to do it, but know that regardless of whatever methodology, every nickel, dollar, and dime is going towards our message of healing and growth and transformation. Know that your generosity returns to you. It returns to you. We are open channels, we're open vehicles. We receive with the same measure that we give. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Our motto at Inner Light is always to take this consciousness and multiply it. I invite you to do that. Take this consciousness and multiply it. See you next time.